All right, so we're gonna start with filling out the patterns with the kick, the snare, the hi-hat, and then we're gonna add in a second kick as well. And so the way we're gonna do it is we're gonna use the Boom Bap Drum Guide. This gives you a whole bunch of patterns. I'm gonna start with this one. It's number 19. You can see it's pretty straightforward. A couple kicks here, kick, 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 kick there. Snare pattern is pretty straightforward. It's on the 2 and the 4. There should be one right here, so I'll add that in. And then pretty standard closed hi-hat pattern, and then a few second kicks, alternate kicks, second kicks, just a different kick that we're gonna throw in there. So I'm just gonna follow this, and I'm gonna fill it in. So let's go ahead and do that. Kick, kick, kick right here, and then here, 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 and there, and there. Snares are 2 and 4, pretty standard. And then the hi-hats, I remember, were this standard hi-hat pattern. Oops. And then we got to get the second kick in here. So we have it right here. So that's right there. And then there. Is that right? Yep. And then right here and here are the other two. Is that right? Yep. So this pattern right here, we're only going to do 19A. This pattern is this pattern. So let's take a listen to see what we have. So this is just the bass pattern. We're going to do some editing from here, but let's at least just listen to the bass pattern. So pretty good so far. Not too bad. The next thing I want to do is humanize it a bit. And so I'm going to do some light editing to give it more of a human feel. The first thing I'm going to do is mess with the velocity a little bit. So right now the velocity, they're all set at 100 for every single note here. I want to add some variation there to make it even more of a human feel. So I'm just going to kind of do it manually. I'm just going to go in here and kind of slightly change the different velocities a bit. Some of them I'll keep the same, but especially towards the end, I want to end on a really strong note, so I'm going to keep that higher for the kicks there. Snares, I'm not going to add too much, just kind of slightly change some of them. Actually, I want this one a little higher, maybe this one a little lower, this one a little lower, maybe. And then I'll just do that. And so maybe there. And so again, just adds a little subtle variation. The hi-hats, I'm going to add a little bit more variation. I'm just going to go hold down and go across here. So we'll get a little bit more variation in the hi-hats, which I think is fine. And so just like that. It's not science, you know, it's humans. So some of it's going to be very like unpredictable and a little bit random. That's kind of what you want. Not too crazy, but that should do the trick. And then for the second kick as well, I'm going to keep this one relatively high. When I have two kicks back to back, you always want to make this first one pretty significantly lower than the second one. So I'm going to do that. And I'll lower this one a little bit as well. So that's the first part, is not alternating, but adjusting the velocities. The next part is adding chants. So what I want to do here is go down here. We have chants. What this is what this says is 100% of the time these notes will be played. Every time I play this pattern, this note will be played. It's guaranteed 100 out of 100 times this kick will be played. What I want to do is add in a little bit of chance that it doesn't get played. So right now I put that down to 90. What that means is this note will be played 90% of the time. 10% of the time it won't. Why would you want that? Again, it's about humanizing and getting those imperfections. If you think about a drummer, they're trying to play this pattern, but they're not always going to hit every note every single time, right? We know about velocity. You're not going to hit every note the same. That's why you alternate the velocity. But also sometimes you might slip up and miss a note or forget a note. And so this is a way to add that in there. So I added it for this kick. I'm going to do it for maybe one other kick here, and maybe this one there. And then I'll just add it in for maybe one of the snares. Again, I'm not going to go too crazy like 94. That means it's going to be played a lot. There's a slight chance that it won't be played. And then I'm just going to go randomly choose some hi-hats as well. And I'm going to get a little more aggressive here. I'm going to get these down into like the lower 80s, maybe 70s. And I'm just being random about which ones I pick. So it's not really a science. Like this is a good example. I'm going to play a hi-hat and a snare. If I'm a drummer, sometimes I might forget and slip up and only get the snare, and so I might forget the hi-hat. So that's what we'll see here. 84% of the time it'll be played, but that other 16% of the time it won't. So add some variation in there. So we did velocity, we did chant. The last thing I'm going to do is swing. It just moves everything off the grid a little bit. So I'm just going to bump this up a little bit. And so maybe 58% there. And so this is adding the human feel to it. So we already we did the velocity changes, we did the chant, and we just added some swing. Let's take a listen. So it sounded pretty good. All right, so the last thing we want to do, we want to add a little bit of fill pattern in. And so I'm going to add that in at the very end of the 4-bar loop here. I have my pattern set up, at least the space to input my pattern. I changed the hi-hat up here. It was pink. This is green. This is an open hi-hat. And so we'll hear that. And so the way I'm going to do the fill is I'm going to go and use the fill guide. So I used the boom bap drum guide earlier. Now I'm going to use the fill guide. The fill guide has tons and tons of fills. It also has all the MIDI, so you could drag and drop the MIDI. Well, I'm just going to follow the pattern. I'm actually just going to use the first one here. I just want something simple, just to add a little bit of a change of pace in there and add a little bit of interest. And so it is 2 snares, open hi-hat, and a kick at the end. So let's add that in. 2 snares, open hi-hat, and the kick. And the open hi-hat and the kick are layered. So we have that at the end here. We have it at the end. So let's go ahead and take a listen and see what that sounds like. So not bad. Again, not too crazy. It was pretty simple. That fill guide has way more crazier ones if you want in there. I just wanted something simple just to add it in and just kind of give you a little bit of the groundwork of how to build up a nice simple head nod and boom bap drum pattern. And so that's it. That's our pattern. Let's throw in I have a sample from Splice, so let's hear it all together. We got a sample, we have the boom bap drum pattern, that's the pattern that's been humanized and a little bit of editing. There's obviously a lot more you can do, and then we have the fill pattern. So let's play it all together. So not bad. I think that all kind of works. I think the fill at the very end, given that sample, where the sample kind of like, it has that kind of repeat, and then at the end it gets a little lower, and then that's a nice moment for like to add in a few more drums. So I think that works really well. There's obviously a lot more you could do in terms of like, the alternate patterns and for the hook and bridges and maybe doing a little more sergeant. But this is like the basics of getting started with a boom bap drum pattern along with some fills. So look, if you're a music producer and you're looking to create drum patterns, highly recommend go check out MIDIMighty.com, and that'll take you to the site where you can download the drum guides. There's all sorts of genres in there, so it's not just boom bap. There's trap and drill and pop and lo-fi, a lot of others, and there's also the fill guide in there as well. So look, if you get stuck, if you find yourself using the same old patterns over and over, if you just need to produce a lot of music and it's a lot to kind of create all this stuff from scratch all the time, but you necessarily don't want to just copy and paste something else. You want something to kind of get you going, grease the wheels. Go check out those drum guides. That'll do it for you. that'll get you creating more music in less time. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Again, MIDI Mighty, go ahead and check that out to get your guides, and let's go.